And I quote, "I'll be there in a minute. Give me a second."
Time is relative, folks. Time is relative.
Yes. So, hey, cheers to everybody in the chat. They're a division rival. I don't care how many wins they get. Screw them.
That wasn't the take I was expecting to hear.
I want to gush over watching live Chris Tanev.
I think that we completely underestimate the skill it takes to play defense.
One highlight or several highlights does not a Calder trophy make.
I'm stepping in here. I'm going to be the crotchety old man here. They need to learn patience. They need to understand the tension, everything, and the drama.
How dare! Look at this. How is McDavid not getting a penalty?
You guys need to calm down with this, okay? You guys need to calm down with it.
I mean, we could stay calm, or we could start getting excited for the playoffs.
Yeah, I think this is a strong time of year for that.
Yes. Welcome to the Shifts and Pucks podcast. You got myself, Sean, and Chris today to talk Canucks. Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How about you, Sean?
Oh, pretty good. It's starting to become somewhat spring here in Calgary. It's the shoulder season, so we get 3/4 seasons in a day. We had the threatening thunder showers. We had some grapple, so snow / whatever you want to call that. A nice sunny day, and then wind out of everywhere. So, and then last week we had a foot of snow. So yeah, it's spring in Calgary.
4th or 5th winter.
Yep. and we still have the May long snowfall to happen too.
Oh, Alberta weather, I do not miss you. We have not had any sign of snow on the ground probably for at least a month, if not longer, here in Kelowna.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting rid of all the glaciers of ice that have built up in places that don't get too much sun, in alleys and on the side of the streets and all that. That's gonna be awesome.
That is the back alley behind your place.
Yes, exactly. And I'm looking forward to getting the grill out. Hopefully, getting that done out on Friday before I head to the Abbotsford Canucks versus Calgary Wranglers. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But as of last night, the Canucks, after going down 2-0 to the Vegas Golden Knights and coming back to win 4-3, have clinched home ice advantage for the first round of the playoffs. So not only are the Canucks making the playoffs, they've got home ice for the first round. And if they can win tomorrow against Arizona, and Edmonton can lose against an angry Vegas team, I think they'll go pretty much. I don't think it will lock it up, but it pretty much lock it up for the division to get the second round as well. But they do play Edmonton on Saturday, so that could be a very big game deciding who wins the division. But leading into that, Chris, what makes you feel good about the Canucks going into the playoffs?
I mean, if they play with the resolve that they had last night against whoever they end up against in the first round, I'm feeling pretty good. And as you said in our group chat, like the way that they're playing is the right way. Like the process is there. The process is good. They just weren't necessarily getting the results that they wanted the past, I don't know, half a dozen to a dozen games. Like it feels like they've been playing like 500 hockey for a while now here, which leading into the playoffs isn't the most encouraging sign. You kind of want them going in on a little bit of a hot streak, maybe not like Nashville 15-game white hot streak, but at least something consistent and showing, momentum and just overall good play. So yeah, if they can play like they did last night, again, for the rest of the remaining of the regular season, as well as the first round, I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah, I like the process that the Canucks have gone through this. Even last night, yeah, they were down 2-0, but they didn't stray from their process and their basics and the staples that Rick Tocchet preaches on a daily basis. But they got a few bounces, and that's something that they haven't gotten in a while. And they were able to overcome a bad penalty call against that the penalty on Brock Boeser that led to one of the goals there, which was also I think it was the first goal. That was also a very soft goal on Artur Silovs. But they still came back. They were able to get back into the game. They were able to, and that was without straying from their staples. And that's one thing. That's the biggest thing I think for me. Gives me a lot of makes me feel good about where the Canucks are going into the playoffs. Is that they don't feel like they have to cheat, even if they're chasing the game. So. And there's been a lot of talk about the last little bit. They haven't had Demko. We already got a comment in the chat here. If Vegas thought Vancouver was scared before, just wait till Bubble Demko suits up again. And he did practice. He had his own net today. So again, we'll get into that a little bit later. The updates on the injuries, but they haven't had the goaltending. It's not like DeSmith was like horrible or Silovs was horrible. But both of them Silovs is 3-0 this season, but DeSmith specifically, he would have a cut. He would let in a soft goal almost per game there. And had they gotten the Demko stuff, the goaltending they get from Demko, and they're kind of used to from him, instead of going sort of 5-5-1, now they're 6-5-1 going after. Since Demko's gone down, they probably could have been a 8-4, 8-4, or 8-3-1 type deal. So, and that changes the narrative and tone of how we're approaching. A lot of people are approaching where the Canucks are going into the playoffs significantly. With that, they've probably already, if not locked up, but close to locking up the division. You're feeling a lot better about that. But you get Demko back. You play with that process. If the power play can get going, that helps, and all that. And that, I guess that's the best way of moving over to the negative side of what worries you about the Canucks going into the playoffs.
You and I kind of had a little bit of a back and forth with this one. I sent you a Ryan Henderson tweet that was talking about like the lack of production from the bottom six, and like if I'm going to nitpick on something, I think that's probably what I'd nitpick on. Is you want maybe a little bit more consistent production from the bottom six. I know they're not your big time goal scorer, so you're not going to expect a lot of goals from them, but you just want enough consistent, but like a slow trickle is what I'm hoping for. Just, slow but consistent production from them. And out of the six of them, like 4 of them are basically at 0 goals in the last like 20 to 25 games, which isn't the most encouraging. So like if I'm going to nitpick something going into the playoffs, it's probably that.
See, I'm not as worried about that because I think, again, the process is there, and I just don't think they've had quote unquote puck luck there. But I think for me, it's the special teams. The power play has been spits and starts here. It looked good last night against Vegas. It's looked good more so of late, but they hadn't gotten the results a lot. So again, they need to start getting the results. We're getting to the part of the season, the part of the whole process where you need results. And if you're not getting results, then it doesn't matter how good the process is, you're not moving on. That's where the playoffs come. And that's where the Canucks need to start capitalizing on their power plays. And if they don't, then that's going to be very tough for them to move on, regardless of who they play in the first round, whether it's Vegas, Nashville, LA. I think really those are the 3 realistic teams.
Yeah, as far as like how much movement there's just left at this point in the season, I think it's only it's down to those 3 teams at this point.
Yeah. So regardless of which of those 3 teams they play, if they don't have a power play that's that can capitalize on, even if it's 1 goal a game or 2 goals a game. Like that needs to step up. It needs to be more consistent there. The penalty kill as well. It's been better, but still not where you want it to be. And that's where, again, that's where Demko's going to help. That's where hopefully Lindholm's going to help when they get back. But yeah, the bottom 6, I feel like just, the process is there. And I think that it's going to, I'll say this. I said this in our group chat as well. I think Kevin's pretty high on the way Dakota Joshua has been playing, and he's going to become a very big sort of folk hero or fan favorite in the playoffs. Don't sleep on Vasily Podkolzin for that. Like the way he is playing, his staples are strong. He's throwing his body around. He's getting chances. Don't sleep on Vasily Podkolzin being a very big part of the depth of this Canucks team going into the playoffs.
Speaking of which, yeah, like lots of props to Jeremy Colleton and the Abbey Canucks for not only turning Podkolzin's game around, but we saw this past season with Höglander. Like the amount of positive reinforcement that we've seen in their games with stints down the AHL. Like I'm really impressed by that. And yeah, I will concede that the special teams have definitely not been nearly as dominant as they were in the first half of the season. Like the power play in the first half of the season was lights out good. Like they seemed like almost Edmonton Oilers power play of the past several years good. So yeah, it's definitely cooled down, and yeah, a little bit of a point of concern, but hopefully they'll get some momentum in the first round and just kind of work off of that moving forward.
Yeah, well, they've got Arizona tomorrow night in the Canucks for Kids fun game. Saturday night they're in Edmonton for what could be a very big game for the Pacific Division title, and then they go back home and play against Calgary, and then they finish it off on the road against Winnipeg. So there's still a lot of travel to go here, but there's no back-to-back game. There's no back-to-back games, and there's a few. I think there's a lot of 2 days off between games here. So it's not arduous. They should still be able to. They should still be able to rest, like not feel too. Like have the schedule like come tear them down a little bit at this point of the season, as much as it can at this point of the season when you're battling all like it's an 82 game schedule. Like it's an 82 game season. That is wear and tear in a very physical game that just wears on your body. So they're going to be everyone's battling something. It sounds like Boeser was battling something before the game. Still got his 40th. We're still waiting to hopefully see Elias Lindholm come back. So yeah, I think that should be the focus for the Canucks in the final games should be sticking to their process 5-on-5 and getting that power play going specifically. I think the penalty kill has shown a lot more consistency for the most part, even though it has had a little bit of a dip the last little bit. But I have a lot more confidence in it than I do where the power play has been, but that can change quickly if the Canucks can go into play Arizona and capitalize, like use that as a good game to get continue the momentum of the power play, and then build off it against Edmonton, Calgary, and Winnipeg.
Yeah, with how brutal the travel schedule always is for Vancouver, just where we're geographically, the team is geographically based out of, like travel has always been a bitch for the team. But the fact that this past month, it's very like we played multiple more games than most teams in the earlier part of the season. And like, for example, Edmonton had like 2 or 3 games in hand every time I check the standings on us. especially now that they've been chasing us in the standings the past month or so. So the fact that it's kind of worked to their advantage where things are slowed down and they can kind of almost like recoup and kind of take their time and, like I feel like prepare for the playoffs properly. Whereas it's almost the opposite for Edmonton. Sure, they had games in hands on us and kind of allows them maybe more wiggle room as far as trying to catch us in the standings, especially in this stretch where we weren't playing so well. But the fact that they are going to have like 2 back-to-backs in the final week of the season and then going into the first round, I feel like that actually could be beneficial as far as like wearing them down and maybe making them a little bit, I'm not going to say like easier to beat because they're still a fairly dominant team, but just enough to maybe kind of eke out a little bit more of an advantage for whoever has to face them.
Yeah. Yeah, and McDavid's fighting something right now. They called up Dylan Holloway on an emergency basis as McDavid missed practice this morning, and they play Vegas tomorrow, and that'll be a game that I think Vegas is going to be a little pissed off after last night, and that could be that is if Vancouver can win the division. Who would you rather Edmonton face? LA for a 3rd year in a row, or Vegas after Vegas beat them last year in the conference in the playoffs?
I mean, it would be amusing to see them play LA for the 3rd season in a row in the first round. Like it's funny, but I think for overall entertainment factor and also potential possibility of having them eliminated in the first round, I would rather them face face Vegas for sure.
Yeah. And with that in mind, I'll throw this out there. Going into out of the 3 options, Vegas, LA, or Nashville, who would you like to see the Canucks play in the first round?
I mean, especially after like the whole Toronto fans chanting "We want Florida," like I'm super hesitant to even just say anything. But out of the 3 teams, I think I would rather like just team wise, I'd rather face Nashville. But that being said, like especially after what Bieksa said on Hockey Night in Canada on Saturday, like with the amount of travel that requires early in the playoffs, it potentially could wear a team down if they want to do a longer run. So, like, make that wish at your own peril. But yeah, I think as far as like matchup wise, I think I'd choose the Preds.
Me, I want Vegas. I want to knock them out first round. That's where I'd be. That's my competitiveness. That's my just the juiciness of it too. Going down, just be awesome. Like give me that. And if you live by the sword, die by the sword. This has been an amazing season as it is that we did not expect. I would love to be the team that knocks off the defending Cup champions in the first round.
It would be incredible as far as like especially building momentum, like shooting into the second round after knocking off the Cup champs. And not only that, but the closest playoff like geographical rival as far as like who we potentially face in the first round. So Not only saving on the travel, but then also just the ego boost of not only taking down the Cup champs, but the fact that Vegas has had the Canucks number basically ever since Vegas has entered the league. Like that, if you look at that record, it is heavily in favor of Vegas.
Yeah, well, they went 2-2 this year, so.
Yeah, and one of those was like during Vegas's biggest slump that they've had as being a franchise. So like, take it with a grain of salt. But yeah, no, they've had better success this season than they have historically. But overall, Vegas is still a fairly intimidating team when they match up against the Canucks.
Yeah, but big part of whether how the Canucks do in the playoffs will be Thatcher Demko. And he did practice, had his own net. DeSmith and Seeloff shared the other net at practice this morning. So to me, that sounds like he's back. To me, that sounds like he will be he'll be starting tomorrow night. If not tomorrow night, he'll be starting on Saturday in Edmonton.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like I would definitely expect Saturday, especially since that kind of lines up with the whole timeline everyone's kind of been predicting. But yeah, based off of having his own net today in practice, who knows? Maybe against Arizona. But I feel like the team's been intentionally not trying to rush him back. So who knows? It might still be Saturday.
Yeah, and I have no issues with them taking their time. You've got time to use it. You want him at 100%. You don't want him dropping him at like first game back is the playoffs, but you want him to get a few games in before the playoffs so he can get his feet back under him, get into the routine again. But yeah, it's the fact that he has his own net is today was a very, very encouraging sign. As good as the Canucks process is, as good as the Canucks top stars are, I really think that it's going to be how far the Canucks goes. It will be significantly affected by how good Demko is.
Absolutely, for sure. No, if we can get anything close to bubble Demko, watch out, NHL, because if you thought the Canucks were dominant in the regular season, bubble Demko in the playoffs, once he gets competitive, whoo. But in a hypothetical world where they do wait to start him until Saturday, would you give Seelovs the game against Arizona as a winnable game for the call-up, or would you put DeSmith in?
I think Seelovs deserves another shot after how he's played. He played against Arizona in Arizona last week. And then the game last night against Vegas, yeah, he let in one soft goal, but he still made some big saves and kept the Canucks in it when they were down already. So I'd give it to Seelovs just for one more, and I'd still give DeSmith at least one more. I'd still give DeSmith maybe the start against Calgary next week. So get Demko 2 games before the playoffs.
And practice him hard just because you want to get him back into game shape, right?
Yeah. So, and then the other big injury the Canucks are dealing with right now is Elias Lindholm. I believe he was also skating without any. Yesterday, he was skating without any restrictions. I think they're also taking their time with him. Coming back from whatever is ailing him. Upper body, I believe.
We never really said anything other than upper body, did they?
Yeah. I believe my guess is it's something to do with his wrist. And they know going into the playoffs, regardless of whether or not he turns into gets his offensive game back, his defensive game and his faceoffs are going to be absolutely huge for the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So they want to make sure he's as close to 100% as possible before bringing him back, because it's having him being able to take key defensive faceoffs as a right shot center with Miller and Pettersson as left shots, as well as Bluger, is going to be huge. You're going to want to have that flexibility for matchups. He's going to be a key cog for any matchup line for the playoffs, whether that is with Bluger or with Joshua and Garland, which I don't know if that's the way they go now. The Miller with those two has looked really good, but
arguably our hottest line the past several games, so you don't really want to mess that up.
Yeah, so it's so tough because you know how good that line could be. You also have Bluger, even if it's with Bluger, you know how good that line could be as a depth line, and if you could find a way to work Lindholm into the top 6 and have a Bluger, Joshua, Garland third line there, and extend the depth of the lineup, that'd be amazing. But even if you keep those two with Miller, and you've got say you got Lindholm centering, my guess would be Mikheyev and Podkolzin. I mean, I wouldn't be too upset, or even Suter, McCabe and Suter actually might be that might be the sort of quote unquote matchup line, and then with Podkolzin, Amon, Bluger, PDG as your rotation for the fourth line is not bad at all. So
does that mean that you'd have Lafferty on the third then?
And Lafferty as well. Yeah, that's the part of the fourth line rotation. So we'll see. Like there's still, that's the one thing, I guess, going back into sort of something a little bit wary is I still feel like the lines are in flux going into the playoffs here. And that's not usually that's not usual for teams. So if they can figure that out and get that nailed down pretty quickly here, I think that'll go a long way. But we also know that there's flexibility there, and that's also a good thing.
Yeah, the fact that they have 5 NHL centermen or NHL quality centermen in the lineup this season, like it's going to be huge as far as being clutch in the playoffs.
Yeah. So it's that's gonna be that's sort of what I was getting at with getting Lindholm back, especially because he's a right shot and all the rest of them are left shots. So it's we'll see where Lindholm is. Hopefully he can get back and play a few games before the playoffs as well. Because again, dropping him in first game back into the playoffs is a tough ask. So hopefully he can get back. Also, what happened last night, not only did the Canucks come back from a 2-0 deficit to win 4-3 over the Vegas Golden Knights, but it was Milestone night at Rogers Arena. Brock Boeser, 40 goals.
My God. If you would have told me in September that Bess was going to get 40, I would have told you were nuts.
I thought he was.
I love Bess, don't get me wrong, but that's incredible.
I thought he was gonna be a bounce back candidate and thought he could push for 30.
Yeah, 30. I was expecting like high 20s, low 30s, not 40.
Fantastic. Love it for him. And then as well as JT Miller gets his 100th point of the season, career high after the 99-point season 2 years ago. Just one of the engines that runs this. He might be the engine that runs the team up front. Because the engine that actually runs this team is Quinn Hughes. But out of the forward group, it's JT Miller. He is the heart and soul of this team. And him getting 100 points, joining a very small club group for the with the Canucks is fantastic. Like it's from a guy who, when the Canucks traded for him, there's fans who were complaining about the trade because they gave
the amount of people griping about giving up a first-round pick for JT Miller because it's too early in the contention window.
Yeah.
Where are they now?
let alone all the same people who were complaining about the contract. He's totally shut them up, hasn't he?
Mm-hmm. Like, sure, he might not be as dominant in the last couple of years of that contract. But if he is getting close to 100 points in the first half of that contract, it's found money, man.
And with Rick Tocchet, he's found another level to his defensive game.
Yeah,
and that
coach player combination works perfectly.
He doesn't need to be a 100-point player to be worth that contract. As long as he continues to play the two-way game that he currently is, and puts up 70+ points, he's worth that contract, let alone the leadership that he brings. Yeah.
And the fact that he's kind of that like prick type personality and the power forward, like he's like what Ryan Kessler brought to the 2011 team in that era is what JT Miller is bringing to the current Canucks.
Yes, for sure. And you said the term that I was hoping we'd get to today when talking about JT Miller. He is the new age power forward. there's no one else. He's a unicorn in this league. There's no one else who hits the way he does, blocks shots the way he does, puts up points the way he does, plays two-way the way he does. There's no one that does it in quite like JT Miller.
Yeah. Like, he's not going to ever be like a Mario or a Lindros before his injuries and whatnot. But damn it, like, he is an upper level power forward in the overall history of the game.
Yeah, like the term power forward has gone through, has changed throughout time and the way and evolved with the game. He's not a Bertuzzi, he's not a Jerome McGinley, but he fits this. He's a power forward for this era in hockey, and there's no one quite like him. Like, the Canucks are lucky to have him. You can quibble about a lot of what Jim Benning did, but acquiring JT Miller was easily his best trade and arguably the best move he made outside of draft picks.
Yeah, no, I know we all love to absolutely shit on Elmer Fudd incarnate himself, but no, if we're going to give Benning any credit, yeah, it's that Miller pickup. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then, as well as Boeser and Miller hitting milestones, Connor Garland played his 400th game. They even had T-shirts made.
Albeit a prank from JT Miller.
Yes. Great. Again, good. Honestly, that's fantastic. Way better than taking your teammate's vehicle off its tires, putting them on cinder blocks, and putting a garden on top of its hood. Looking at you, Flower.
Although, come on, that just shows you do not fuck with Flower. Like, you do not mess with the prank master.
No.
If you TP his car,
Duhaime pokes the bear.
To pay.
Yeah, Brandon Duhaime pokes the bear, and look what happened. But yes, the 400 game shirts for Connor Garland were fantastic, and to celebrate it, he scored his 100th career goal, as well as his 101st career goal as the game winner. Absolutely hit from a guy who was passed over in his first draft, and was a 5th round pick in his second draft. He's an undersized player who plays bigger, and just finds a way to impact the game more often than not, especially this year. And then you talk about what happened at the beginning of the year with him. To
go from basically a trade request to where he's at now. Man, what a 180 from the start of the season.
Getting his name chanted by the Rogers Arena faithful.
That shit-eating grin at that post-game interview was just awesome.
Yeah. Also, I do want to say that the vibe at Rogers Arena has been so awesome this year. You're starting to see JT Miller chants, Connor Garland chants.
The fans are having fun again.
Yes, it's fantastic.
Because one thing is, like, in a Canadian market, when you're doing horribly, yeah, it's going to be shitty, and the fans will let you know it. But the opposite also does apply. If you are like absolute gamer in the playoffs and you deliver like memories that the fans will never forget, they will make you legendary, and they will put you in the rafters eventually. Like, Canadian fandom is hardcore when it comes to hockey.
It is. So what a great night. What a great night last night was for that. And even though Pettersson didn't put up points, you're starting to see the game that he needs to play to be successful in the playoffs too.
Mm-hmm.
So it was an absolutely awesome night last night. And yeah, so we talked about Demko. He'll likely be top 3 in Vezina voting, right?
I mean, the fact that he's been out for a while definitely is going to hurt him as far as votes. But overall performance, how can you not put him in the top 3?
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one award that's voted on by GMs. So I'll be interested to see how that goes compared to what a lot of the media and fans do for their when they do their.
Yeah, they tend to look at the game a
nominations.
little bit differently than the rest of us, for sure.
Yes. And then it's Quinn Hughes' Norris to lose.
Yeah, and I know that everyone kind of talks about all the like Hedman or Yossi. Like, there's other guys that are worthy of being in the conversation. But as far as overall consistent performance across the entire season, how can you not say it's Hughes?
Yeah. I look at last year. I was trying to figure out sort of how to sort of weigh things out, and I came up with the goal impact, my goal impact sort of stat, where I looked at how goals for and against when the player's on the ice versus goals for and against when the player's off the ice, and Quinn Hughes is third amongst the top 10 and ties point producing defenseman for this season as of last Friday when I did this up for this year.
Mm-hmm.
Victor Hedman was first, Evan Bouchard was second. But you can't just look at stats and tell how valuable a player is or who's the best based off of stats. You have to do some eye tests as well and how they affect the game. And Bouchard plays with two of the best players in the world and point producing players in the world, and Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. Victor Hedman plays a lot with Nikita Kucherov. Hughes plays with JT Miller. So they all have their players, but when you look at that, and the other thing when I look at that, the two players that stood out to me when I did that was defensively, Victor Hedman and Adam Fox were the two players with negative goals against. The differential between when they're on the ice and when they're not on the ice with a negative, which is a good thing for goals against. Those were the only two that had it for the top end of the point producing defenseman. So Adam Fox, I think, deserves to be in there as well. But when you take, and I haven't even mentioned Cale Makar, who, like, when you look at a lot of these stats, he doesn't quite get there, which is very interesting because he's probably going to be in the top 3.
Yeah.
But I really think it's Quinn Hughes' Norris to lose this year. Like, the way he's played this year, he's arguably had the best season, let alone the step he's taken defensively, the step he's taken goal scoring wise this year as well.
Yeah, it's not just one dimensional. Like, last season, they gave it to Erik Karlsson just because he got over 100 points. And the fact that that Hughes has been able to be this dominant offensively as well as being sound defensively, overall, just give it to Hughes.
Yep. So, and then the Jack Adams is going to be a very interesting vote because you have a few different options for teams that have had massive bounce back seasons. You've got the Canucks, you've got the Winnipeg Jets. Had Philadelphia not had their slide, you could have made an argument for John Tortorella, who has actually just fallen off. They lost 9-3 to Montreal today. We've had epic John Tortorella press conferences. He's been telling refs to fuck off. I
can only imagine what that post-game presser is going to be like. It's either that or he's just not going to say anything at it.
So, and then and then you've got
Laviolette in New York.
Laviolette in New York deserves a mention there as well. I bet you know who will get nominations. It would be Chris Knobloch as well, because of what he did with the Oilers after taking over just in November.
Although part of me wonders, I know this is a hypothetical tangent that we might potentially go down a rabbit hole on, but do you think that if the Oilers had been a little bit more patient, that Woodcroft could have had a turnaround as well? Or do you actually give that much credit to Knobloch as far as the fact that this team turned around like it did?
They were an absolute mess systems-wise to start the season under Woodcroft. They needed a different voice. It's still the players still have to play. I'm not giving all the credit to Chris Knobloch here, but I think it made a decent amount of difference that allowed it to be. So it's, yeah, I think that might be the closest race out of everything here. Outside of the Hart, which is going to be another one that I can't wait to watch the debate of, because you always get the people who whine and complain about it should be the most outstanding player, not most valuable player.
And are these voted based off of regular season performance?
Yes, everything's voted based off of regular season. All the voting needs to be done in I think a day or two after the regular season ends.
Okay.
So, and then,
but obviously we're a little bit biased for talk.
Yes, just a little bit. I don't know where that vote goes, honestly, because there's just too many other,
especially since
if it's not talk, give it. I always have a soft spot for Bonus.
I mean, former Canucks associate coach. So, yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to Bones having it. But I think realistically, especially with the Eastern bias and whatnot, I wouldn't be surprised if Laviolette gets it.
Yeah, yeah.
The Rangers have been pretty dominant this season. And
then the Canucks announced their Masterton Award nominee, and that is Noah Juleson. I thought it was did they nominate Boeser last year?
Yeah, I think Boeser was the nominee for 2 seasons in a row.
Okay, so, but I really like in terms of perseverance and being able to get back and become just a great depth defenseman for the Canucks, who can just fill in and you're almost wanting him in the lineup more.
Yeah, because typically a lower key trade deadline acquisition tends to be that 7th defenseman. The Canucks didn't need to do that this season because, like you said, Noah Juleson has had a hell of a turnaround under Tocchet's system.
Yep, he definitely deserves a lot of credit there. And then I don't think there's going to be anyone else. The Masterton's the Masterton. Kevin's idea of just not actually awarding it and just having every.
I was actually going to say that I'm going to side with Kevin on this, and let's just give each team puts up their nominee, and each team basically give 32 versions of it. That each nominee basically it gets their recognition of how much perseverance and whatnot.
Whose hardship was harder? It's such a weird one.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's so weird and subjective. Yeah.
I don't think there's any. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna see Quinn Hughes in for the Hart. I don't think we'll see JT Miller in for the Hart.
Although you were saying off the air that maybe Miller should be in the overall atmosphere of the conversation, but yeah, I don't think he's in the top 5.
If you look at, again, back to my goal impact stat that I sort of developed last year, he's 4th amongst the top 10 goal scorer, top 10 point producers this year, and he's got the best out of that. He's got the best in terms of defensive, in terms of the defensive impact that he has on the game. So let's go there. Quickly go there before we move on to the Abbotsford Canucks. Let's use this as a way to transition into the Hart Trophy conversation. because the way Pittsburgh is back in the playoff picture, and a big part of that is Sidney Crosby. Is he in your heart discussion there, Chris?
I mean, so just to reiterate, you said that has to be voted on like within a day or two at the end of the regular season.
Yeah.
So if the Penguins actually make the playoffs, he has to at least be in the conversation, because to throw a team on your back like that is impressive. And Crosby has done that more times than we can probably count since he's been part of that Penguins franchise. Just lugging that team on his back and climbing up that mountain. Obviously, he's had more dominant teams to work with in past seasons, especially in the cup-winning seasons for sure. But to do what he's done with the team that's been around him this season, yeah, it's impressive. So how can you not have him in the conversation? Do I think he's likely to win? No.
Yeah,
But
same
bet he's
thing.
in the
Like, he's
conversation.
not within. He's as of tonight when checking NHL.com, he's got 86 points in 78 games. I'm not sure if that's been up. I don't think they played today. But is a plus 10 on the plus minus. So that he's 17th in the league in scoring. My rule of thumb, he's got to be in the top 10 in scoring to be in the Hart conversation. If you're a forward, there's probably there's always goaltenders with Connor Hellebuck's probably in there. You've got defensemen who may not be in there. That's where Quinn Hughes comes in. But for top,
Or Yossi.
yeah, Roman Yossi as well. So again, with my goal impact stat, the top player with that is Austin Matthews, and he actually has far and away the best defensive impact on the game in terms of goals against when he's on the ice versus when he's off. The next would be McKinnon in terms of the totality, and then it's McDavid, and then fourth is JT Miller. So JT Miller's had a hell of a season, and if you base off of that, like I think he won't be in that conversation, but he deserves to be. The way I would frame it.
Yeah, he if there was like an unsung hero or an honorable mention part of like the Hart Trophy conversation, he's absolutely there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would also say that he won't. I don't think he'll get enough votes, but I think he'll be on the fringes of the Selke conversation as well. Yeah.
Honestly, though, it's Barkov's.
It totally is Barkov's, but he'll be on the fringes of that. And even if the Hart, like he should be in there. But if I'm going to pick a team nominee, we talked about this last week. To me, the MVP nominee for the Canucks should be Quinn Hughes. So, and Dylan, just a couple comments from Dylan here, downplaying what Carlson did on the Sharks. He was a rover on the Sharks. He was allowed to go over wherever the hell he wanted. He didn't have to play defense. That's why he got so many points. That's why people are downplaying it. It's the Norris Trophy for best defenseman, not best rover, right? And that was a knock on Quinn Hughes going into this season. He's made a massive leap on that side of things. So I think that's why there's a little bit of that in terms of what happened with Erik Karlsson last year using this goal model. Erik Karlsson was not near the top of mine, but I bumped him up on my personal nomination list because of the offensive impact he had, and he deserved to be there. And I have no issues with him winning the Norris last year. So,
because 100 points from a defenseman is impressive no matter how you cut it.
Yes, exactly. And then Dylan as well, honorable mention for the Hart is Artemi Panarin. Yeah, he's right there. He's in the top 10 of scoring. He's in terms of for the goal impact model that I I've got here. He's lower down on that list. I've got Kucherov ahead of him. I've got Pasternak ahead of him on that with that model. So it's a pick. It's very much a very. That's what I love about the Hart, though. It's a very subjective award, and I can throw out all the stats I want. You can throw out all the stats you want, but a lot of it is just feel, and that's what I love about it. It gives such a great conversation.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah. Like realistically, when it comes down to it, it's a three-headed race between Matthews, McKinnon, and McDavid. McDavid with 100 assists, Matthews with over 65 goals, and McKinnon is just a fucking horse. No, like regardless of stats. So yeah, how to choose between those three, especially with how subjective it is, it's hard to say. But I guess if I were to put betting money on it, just with how dominant Matthews has been with his goal scoring and the fact that he is hunting towards 70 at this point, I think I'd probably put my money on Matthews.
Not to mention the Toronto bias.
That too, yeah.
Yeah, I talked about how the jacket items is a very interesting debate. The Hart this year is wide, to me. It's wide open. Like you could say it's a 3-horse race, and I think I probably lean that way. But Kucherov deserves a lot of talk. Panarin
There's a lot of
talk.
names that deserve to be in the conversation, but when it comes down to who's actually going to get votes, I think it's a three-headed race.
Yeah. So, and then before we get into some more of the sort of general NHL stuff, I'm going to the Abbotsford Canucks Calgary Wranglers game on Friday. And to my disappointment, I don't think I'm going to get to see Jonathan Lekaramäki play.
Because he'll probably be on a plane back to Sweden.
Yes, he's going to be on a plane back to Sweden to join the national team, the Tre Krona, for the World Championships. It was fantastic for him. I just really wanted to see him play.
But guess who gets to see play regardless, though?
Yeah. Yeah. I do get to see DPD regardless. And I'm really looking forward to that because he is someone who fits the way the Canucks are trying to build their team right now under Tocchet, Alvin, Rutherford, that whole system. A big, strong defenseman who can move the puck smartly, is not afraid to mix it up. If he hits the way I think he could in terms of being a player, he may. I may have to get a DPD jersey.
And I said it in our group chat, but I don't think I said it publicly yet. Is there a way where they can give him a leading 0 on a single-digit jersey and give him 0-4? Because that's just too perfect. Because we all know defensemen like to wear single-digit jerseys, and that would just be
so good. Yeah. No, it's. I'm really looking forward to the game on Friday. You and I went to a game around Christmas. I don't remember much of that game. We had a lot of fun that night, but it was yes. Plus, there was a lot of us, so there was a lot of socializing going on as well.
Yeah.
So
there was 10 of us in total, including Devin's friends. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was. I'm going with producer Heidi, our buddy Andy, and another friend of ours. So it's a smaller group, so I'll be able to pay a little more attention. So I'm looking forward to that as the Canucks go. Our Abbotsford Canucks are also pushing towards the playoffs as they've clinched the playoff spot as well. And they've,
do we know who they're likely to place in the first round?
Let's quickly see here. The nice thing about the AHL's website is they have a playoff primer because their playoffs is a little bit confusing at times. So let's see.
It's always nice when they design the website to be helpful in that regard. That's awesome.
Exactly. Yeah. The Canucks are currently sitting 5th in the Pacific. The team in first gets a bye to the second round, and then second place plays 7, third place plays 6, and fourth place plays 5th. So we're hoping to see. Let's see here. Let me pull this back up again. Great podcasting, Sean.
The fact that you're live narrating, I think, is helpful. It's not like we're having dead air here.
Yeah, I think the Canucks definitely need to win both those games on Thursday and Friday in Calgary to have a chance at having home ice in the first round. They are currently 3 points back of Colorado Eagles. Canucks only have 4 games left, while the Eagles have 6. But they are only 1 point up on Bakersfield and Calgary. So that's also why that's gonna be a fun game. In the playoff hunt here. They are making
teams that you're basically racing for spots against. Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, if the Canucks finish 4th, the Ontario Reign and the Tucson Roadrunners are 3rd and 2nd respectively. So there's still lots. Still have no idea who's playing who. kind of like the West right now, and kind of like the East in the NHL too.
Although, just to go back to the AHL for a second, who gets that first round bye?
The Coachella Valley Firebirds.
Damn, good for them.
Well, they won it all last year.
True. Yeah, forgot about that.
Yeah. So the bit of a mess in the Pacific Division in the AHL, and just, like I said, let's try this transition again. Just like in the Eastern Conference of the NHL.
Whatever you want to call it, the Turtle Derby, the Doodlebug Derby.
And as mentioned earlier, Philadelphia lost to the Montreal Canadiens 9-3 today. And then the Islanders beat the Rangers 4-2, and the Capitals beat the Red Wings 2-1. So at this point, the Islanders are the 3rd team in the Metropolitan, and the the Capitals are the 2nd wild card team in the East as of right now. Islanders have 87 points. The Capitals have 85. Red Wings have 84.
Pittsburgh and Detroit, who are nipping at their heels with 84.
84. Flyers have 83 with only 3 games left. So I think they're most likely they're going to have to run the table and get help.
And yeah, with New Jersey at 79, they're out of it at this point.
Yes, no, they are definitely out of it. All right, Chris, who do you want to see make the playoffs out of that grouping?
I mean, it's impressive what Washington's done, but like if I'm playing favorites, I think I'd rather see Crosby get rewarded. But that being said, playoff goals count toward Ovechkin's goal total, so hard to really make a choice there.
No, they don't.
They don't?
No, they don't. This is all regular season goals.
Oh, I'll be damned. I thought playoff goals counted towards that goal total.
No.
Okay. In that case, I take it back. In that case, I will selfishly choose Crosby just because I think the fact that what he's done with that team in the second half of this season is impressive as hell.
I want to see the Islanders make it, but as the second wild card team, so that we get Rangers Islanders in the first round.
Ooh, Battle of New York. That would be delicious.
Yep. And then I have whether it's Pittsburgh or Washington as the third. I don't see that happening with the math there, unfortunately, with them being 3 points back. But it'd be amazing because then have Crosby in there, because then they'd be facing Carolina, which would be fine. But just if you
imagine Gensel playing against his former team in the first round.
Exactly. There we go. There's the storyline we wanted.
Yeah.
But because the East right now, the best part about the East is that we know Toronto's going to get a boogeyman in the first round. They're either getting Florida or Boston.
Yeah, I was going to say it's going to be either one of Florida or Boston. So, you know what? I wouldn't be opposed to seeing Boston because, let's be honest, they broke the 19-year curse cherry last playoffs. Maybe they need to exercise another demon and slay their Boston Bruins dragon.
Don't they want Florida?
I think they're second guessing that after what happened last year.
Yeah, but God, that's just going to be so awesome because it's going to be, you're going to get at least one just pure drama series in the East.
Well,
with
first
that.
round of the playoffs, it's just nonstop entertainment hockey all day. It's what us hockey lovers live for.
Yes. Was it the 1 year poor Devin had would have the early game the Leafs and the late game was the Flames, and he just 6 hours of nonstop nerves
and drinking, most likely.
Oh, good God, yeah. And then in the we'll go, since we talked about the East, we'll talk about the West a little bit again. I think it's pretty much locked in that Colorado and Winnipeg are going to face each other in the first round, which will be a really fun series. And then you've got Dallas and Vancouver currently leading the Pacific. Again, the big game tonight or tomorrow night with Vegas facing Edmonton. Right now, is there any? There's nothing really. Yeah, there's no late games that are really pertinent for the standings today. With maybe LA's. Yeah, LA is facing the Ducks. So if they win, they actually clinch a playoff spot because they haven't yet. So, but
because Nashville has clinched at 95, and LA's sitting at 93. So that adds up.
And then it's really the only matchup that looks semi-solid at this point is Colorado and Winnipeg. Because Dallas looks like pretty much set to be the Central Division winner.
Yeah,
as well as most likely as well as most likely the conference winner. And then it's just figuring out who finishes where amongst LA, Nashville, and the Knights, and that will sort of figure out who faces who.
And it's likely between Dallas and New York as far as the President's Trophy winner too.
Boston's right there as well.
A couple points back, but now that most teams are down to 4 games remaining, I'm not sure if they can make up that ground.
Right now, the Rangers have 110 points. The Hurricanes and Boston both have 107 points, as well as Dallas. So we'll see here.
Yeah, it'll be a close one.
All right. I was so focused on making sure we had a good agenda today that I did not do one last question. Do you have one, Chris?
I don't, but honestly, I think just talking about potential playoff matchups is kind of the fun aspect that we go with one last question anyway. So I feel like that kind of was a decent substitute.
All right. Sounds good to me. Well, thank you for tuning in. I am Beardy Canucks 03 on Twitter. Chris, how do we follow you?
I am at Schneids on most of the social medias.
You can follow Kevin at KEVOLE on the social medias. You can follow Tyler at TNoble, TNOLOBLE on the app, formerly known as Twitter, now called X.
Yeah.
Devin is Gordhouse09. Yes, he is coming back at some point.
We just have to get him away from selling peelers.
Yes. You can follow us at Shifts and Pucks on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. Again, thank you for tuning in. Kevin had Dan from the Fireside Podcast on Saturday to talk Flames. He will probably be back on the weekend to talk about that as well. We will be back to talk Canucks, if not Sunday, probably early next week in the evening as well. We have lives, and I know it sucks, but
getting us all together
it's hard
like
to hurt the cats.
Yeah.
But again, thank you for tuning in. We will talk hopefully. Yeah, we'll talk next time, and hopefully the Canucks will have clinched the division at that point. Bye for now.